Shalom, giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of great millstones. Brother, something that I utilize many times when I'm putting lessons together, when I'm teaching something to, my family, is I use modern day examples to sort of drive home the point, right? Because many times that we break down the scriptures, we like to use Deuteronomy 28 to prove that we are scattered people without tying it all into the New Testament and using various examples. But through this particular lesson, hopefully I'll provide an example that you brothers can also use as well. Now, Deuteronomy 28 verse 64, it reads, "Then the Lord will scatter you among all the nations from one end of the earth to the other." Now we know that that's an anchored scripture. We don't necessarily need Deuteronomy. The more we grow, we can break it down from various angles, like as I'm about to do here, Lord willing. All right, so let's look at Leviticus chapter 26 verse 33. It reads, "I will scatter you among the nations and will draw out my sword and pursue you." Right? Because as the scripture says, let everything be established on 2 or 3 witnesses. As we see here in Zechariah chapter 7 verse 14, the Lord states that I will scatter them with a whirlwind among all nations where they were strangers. Right? Because once you sprawl throughout the entire earth, you're strangers, you're a foreigner. Just like if a foreigner came to America, or someone that isn't born here, right, in America, we'll look at them as though they're what? A foreigner, right? So that's what we are. We are foreigners scattered from our homeland. Let's go from there. Let's look at what the psalmist has to say, right? Psalms chapter 44 verse 11, and it reads, "You gave us up to be devoured like sheep and have scattered us among the nations." Let me come down to the King James Version, right? And it says, "Thou hast given us up like sheep, appointed for meat, and hast scattered us among the heathens." Right? So we're mixed in with the heathens, right? You got to get that in your mind. As we transition into the New Testament now, as you see, I went into John, but you got to get that into your mind. We're scattered in amongst the wicked ass nations, the heathen nations, right? Remember, before Yahweh Shai actually left, he said that, hey, I'm going to go away to a place that you cannot find me, right? So as we read here in John chapter 7 verse 35, and it reads, "The Jews said to one another, where does this man intend to go that we cannot find him? Will he go where our people live, scattered among the Greeks, and teach the Greeks?" Right? Again, if you want to get into that Greek captivity, you got to read the Apocrypha, First Maccabees and Second Maccabees. But as it states down here, I'm going to go down to the King James version, right? Or King James Bible verse, and it reads, "Then he said to the Jews then the Jews said amongst themselves, whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the diaspora among the Gentiles, and teach the Gentiles?" Because when we were scattered and took upon the Gentile ways, we were likened unto Gentiles, but not actual Gentiles, but likened unto them. We were like them, right? Let's go from there to Acts chapter 2, right? Let's come down to verse 5, and it reads, "Now there were staying in Jerusalem Jews from under every nation under heaven." Again, we were scattered to the four corners, but many of us knew that we were Israelites, right? Okay, Jews from under every nation. It's like they were they were keeping a holy day, number one, but it was almost similar to like a family reunion. When you have your family come all back together that live in various countries and states, everyone talks a little different, looks a little different, have a different accent and whatnot, right? Verse 6, "When they heard the sound, a crowd came together in bewilderment, because each one heard their own language being spoken. Utterly amazed, they asked, aren't all those who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that each of us hear them in our native tongue? Parthians, Medians, Elamites, residents of Mesopotamia, Judea, and Cappadocia, Pontus, and Asia," right? And it goes on to discuss many other places: Egypt, right? Liberia, near Crete, and visitors of Rome, both Jews and converts to Judaism. And let's understand something. The ones that were converted were those that were living like heathens, Israelites that had taken on the heathen ways, okay? All right? It goes on to talk about Cretans and Arabs, right, as well, okay? How do we know? We're going to get into that as well, because even when the apostles went to preach the gospel, they were only going to preach to Israelites to convert them back to their nationality, all right? So let's come out of that. Let's go here, right? How do we know? Acts 11 and 19. Now they were scattered abroad among the persecution that rose about Stephen. Travelers as far as, I'm not going to butcher these locations, so I will only pronounce the places that I know. And I make a fool out of myself here. All right, we got Cyprus, Antioch, but look what they were preaching to. They were preaching the word to none but unto the Jews only. Okay, further going to prove to you, or end up proving to you, that they were preaching to Israelites who had took on the heathenistic ways or the heathenistic customs. All right, so when you read the scriptures, man, you got to get it in your mind. We use this as a modern term here, right? You got to get it in your mind when it says these places. So basically, there were Israelites from Phoenix, from Seattle, from San Antonio, from Fort Worth. You got to get that in your head, man. Jews from Vegas, from San Francisco, right? From New York. Okay, you got to put that in your head. Jews that were dwelling in LA, in Miami, in Chicago, right? You got to put that in your mind as you're reading through the scriptures to make it make sense today, right? Well, just as an example, okay? All right. Let's get another precept here. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 24. And of course, it's self-explanatory. The book of Hebrews was written to who? Hebrew Israelites, right? But the point here is, greetings, greet all your leaders and all the Lord's people. Those from Italy send you their greetings. Who are dwelling in Italy? Hebrew Israelites, right? Even when you get various versions, you can't get lost in the verbiage there, because King James Version says, salute all of them that have rule over you, meaning your leaders, and all the saints. They of Italy salute you. So the first thing you want to come to is, who's the saints? And of course, we want to have a precept for that, but the saints are Israelites, right? Let's come down to the King James Version. And how do we know? Because the scripture states, through thy precepts I got a good understanding. And it reads, he also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Praise ye the Lord. Right? Let's come out of this. Let's get a few more precepts and close it on up. Remember James chapter 1, verse 1, and it states, James, a servant of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, to the 12 tribes scattered abroad, or scattered among the nations, greetings. So even James, in a sense, is saying to the 12 tribes scattered in Atlanta, in Florida, in Orlando, in New Orleans. The same thing, brothers. All right? But we all know that, okay? 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 1. Peter, an apostle of Yahweh Shai, to Yahweh's elect exiles scattered throughout the province of Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. Right? Remember, he just said to thine elect. Where are the precepts for thine elect? That's Isaiah 45, verse 3 and 4. Isaiah 65, verse 9. And Isaiah 42, verse 1. All of them going to Israel being his elect. Okay? Come out of this. Even when you get to Revelations, right? Revelations chapter 1, verse 4. John, to the 7 churches in the province of what? Asia. Grace and peace to you from him who is, and who was, and who is to come, from the 7 spirits before his throne. Okay? We just saw where do we see that at? We just saw that in Peter, right? Israelites, that were scattered in Pontus, Galatia, right? Isn't there a book of Galatians, right? Cappadocia, Asia. Where else do we see Israelites from Asia? Remember, we saw it in the book of Acts, right? Let me come back down here, right? Remember, hold on, let me get you something. Let's start at verse 5. Now, that were staying in Jerusalem, God-fearing Jews out of every nation. Again, Jews are people out of every nation, right? Out of every nation, every city, every location. You can look at it like this: Jews out of San Francisco, San Diego, LA, New York, Boston, Miami. Okay. Something else that I like to do is I like to bring up this oldie but goodie for those of us who still have a hard time believing. And this is in Virginia. This is an oldie but goodie, like I stated before. Right? You can look, and there's several other locations you can look up in your own time, but this is just one I chose to bring up, right? But it states, and I'll read some of it: just to the west lies Israel Hill, settled in 1810 through 1811 by approximately 90 former enslaved persons who received freedom and 350 acres from Judith Rudolph under the will of her husband, Richard Rudolph, cousin of Thomas Jefferson. These Israelites, let me zoom in on that, right? These Israelites and other free, of course they're gonna throw that black in there, right? And other free African Americans, pardon me, brothers, it doesn't actually say black, but that thought came to my mind. And other free African Americans worked as farmers, craftspeople, and approximatax, right? But that's an oldie but goodie. Want to bring that out real quick. But let me go back to the lesson. Right? Let me go back to where I was. But the point I want to bring out here was, it said to the 7 churches. Now we all know the 7 churches. Hold on, brother. I wrote that down on some notes I got in front of me. And I think I turned the page, brother. So just give me a second, brothers. Let me come back over. Matter of fact, let me turn to it, man, because I got lost in some notes that I was writing. I was writing some things down. I kind of got a little carried away. But, of course, here we go. All right. So you can read about the 7 churches in Revelation chapter 2. But, of course, the church in Smyrna, the church in Pergamum, the church in Thyatira, the church in Sardis, the church in Philadelphia, the church in Laodicea, right? All those churches, brothers, as we all know, those were all locations where Israelites were scattered, right? If the Spirit is working with you, it's easy to understand, it's easy to tie in together, and you're able to, make a lesson go very seamless and bring out the understanding. So, those in your midst, those that you teach, can clearly see that the entire book is written by Israelites and it's for Israelites. We are a scattered people living amongst the nation, like it says here in Virginia. And like many of you probably already know, there's many books bringing it out that Israelites were in Ohio, Israelites were in Georgia, Israelites were in St. Louis. We are scattered people, scattered abroad. Israelites were in New Mexico. We have proof of that with the Los Deca Kaaba stone. Just an influx of information. All right, Shalom.